Well, going back to the science of that, there's mirror neurons, and all humans have them. It's what gives us the ability to be empathetic to somebody, to be sad when somebody's sad, to be happy when somebody's sad or happy. We can feel their happiness. We can feel their sadness. We have hundreds of them. Horses have millions of them. So we're kind of good at judging what's going on with humans, but horses see right through us. We can pretend that we're not scared when we're around horses, but they'll be like, yeah, you are. We can tell you're afraid when we're 10 feet away.
Hi, everyone. I'm beyond excited to be working with horses now, guiding children and some women groups through powerful groundwork experiences with the horses. Research from HeartMath has shown just how deeply healing horses can be for humans. Their heart fields are incredibly strong, and simply being around them can help regulate our nervous system, reduce stress, and bring a profound sense of peace. I'm also excited about my children's camp, Sacred Hoof Prints, where we'll weave together working with the horses, breath work, mindfulness, and sacred practices to nurture the hearts and spirits of young ones. Can't wait to share the journey with all of you and enjoy this beautiful interview with Jody Nixon from Metaphorse Sanctuary. Thank you. Today, I am super excited to have Jody Nixon on the show. Jody is the founder of an organization called Metaphorse. Founded in 2014, Jody is a certified instructor in equine facilitated learning and human development. Metaphorse was built with a mission to bring retired horses and humans together to create lasting, transformative change. Grounded in the profound healing potential of the horse-human relationship, they've pioneered innovative approaches to emotional healing, personal development, and therapeutic care. Nestled in the breathtaking embrace of Spring Canyon in Montrose, Colorado, a remarkable alchemy of healing unfolds daily. Here, where rugged beauty meets hope and transformation, their motto isn't just a catchy phrase, it's the beating heart of the mission. We rescue horses who rescue people. Oh my gosh, I get tears in my eyes when I say that. Wow. Welcome to the program, Jody.
Thanks, Marla.
Yeah,
Thanks
and
for having
you're welcome. And I just want my listeners to know I've spent not enough time with Jody, but some time with Jody. And what the work she's doing is nothing less than magical, working with women and children and therapeutic, children with gifts and adults and veterans and just all kinds of people. And it's truly beautiful. So Jody, tell us how you began your work with healing and horses and how Metaphorse was founded, and also like what does Metaphorse stand for?
Well,
A lot of
that's
questions
great
there.
questions. Here's a lot of questions. So, way back in 2010, I lived in Montrose, but my son was on the ski board team, and Crested Butte asked if he could do that full time. So we moved to Crested Butte, Colorado. While I was there, I became a domestic violence advocate and a crime victims advocate. And it was one day when I was sitting at my desk, I'd hung up the phone from a victim, and the thought crossed my mind, like, what is wrong with these women? Like, why can't they stand up for themselves? What has happened in their lives that they can't have a backbone, right?
Right.
And it popped into my head that, well, they didn't have horses. Maybe they didn't have horses in their lives. Because if you can get a 1,200-pound horse off of you or out of your space, your 180-pound husband and or aggressor is really not an issue. You can stand up, you can fight, right? So I started looking into different modalities that taught equine therapy. I wanted horses in these women's lives. So there are so many. There's Path International, there's the Gestalt method, there's the OK Corral. There's all kinds of ways to get certified in this, but I found a Pony Quest which is Linda Kohanev, and I did an apprenticeship with her. She wrote a book called The Tao of Equus. In that book, she explains how horses have their own thoughts and feelings, and we don't necessarily give them that opportunity to show their thoughts and their feelings. So it had me look at things a lot differently. In her book, she explains how all this information came to her. She'd had a dream, and when she woke up and started researching it was all true. And she had dreamed about Epona, and Epona was the Celtic goddess of horses and healing. And
Wow.
through my apprenticeships, yeah, it gives me goosebumps just thinking. I was like, that's going to be my teacher. I want something that came through them divinely, right?
Yes.
So I went to her workshops, and when I saw one horse act three different different ways with three different women. With one woman, the horse was completely calm, and the next woman walked in, and that horse lost its mind. I mean, completely panicked. And the lady's like, "Yeah, that's me. That's how I feel most of the time." And then the next lady walks in, and the horse, same horse, completely different. And that's when I was like, hey, oh, hey, there's something to this, right? The
Yeah.
horses can read what's going on with these people. And so I did another workshop, and then I went into the apprenticeship. I got my first apprenticeship done, and then I did a second one because I was so captivated by what was going on with these horses. And I did a lot of my apprenticeship in Costa Rica. So it's not like American horses, it's horses everywhere in the world do
Yeah.
this.
Beautiful.
So
So where do you get these horses? I know you rescue them, and many times they're older, and I think you have a few wild Mustangs, but you talk about them being cherished and protected at your beautiful ranch, which I know they are. So where do you find the horses?
that's a great question. Really and truly, the horses find me. I am not seeking horses. I do not go to auctions to save horses. I I'm not seeking horses. We have 36 at the ranch right
Yeah.
now. They've all found their way here for one reason or another, whether it's a hub for them to find their real forever home, or if it's just they need to be here to do the healing work for themselves, for the people, and it just be a sanctuary for them.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense to me that they just find you,
right, right.
yeah, yeah.
I do
So
have
go ahead.
I was gonna say I have 16 horses that have come from Chuck Saunders up in Crested Butte. When I did my time up there, I worked for him, and these horses were in his herd. And he is a phenomenal horse person who has seen this cycle of slaughter where the horses will have worked all their life, and then they get old and they can no longer do what they did professionally. And so they go to auction, and then somebody buys that horse. If it's not the horse they want, it goes back to auction. It usually ends up in a slaughter pen. This is a
Oh,
horse that has done nothing right, has done nothing but serve a human all its life, and it deserves better. So that is really what my herd is made up of, are 26 to 37-year-old horses
wow.
that nobody wants anymore because
Yeah.
they aren't fast enough. They can't climb the hills. They can't do this or that, but you know what? They are fantastic for the healing, and they are fantastic for little kids and teaching
Yes.
little kids their self-confidence.
Well,
So
let's talk about that. But before that, I just want to read something from your website. Imagine a place where the broken find wholeness, where silent understanding is triumph over words, and where the power of connection transcends species. This is Metaphorse. Once again, a sanctuary where rescued horses and hurting humans embark on a journey of mutual healing, each becoming the unlikely hero in the other's story of redemption. I had to read that. I just love that. So once again, what is Metahorse? What does that mean?
So back in my one of the things that my apprenticeship, one of the things that I learned was that horses speak in metaphors. And when you add an E to Metaphorse, it spells out a horse. And
Right.
so before I'd ever started my business, the name came to me. Um, the horses speak in metaphors. So there
Yeah,
it is,
I love it.
horse.
It's such a great name. I was drawn to Metaphorse because of the spiritual. Don't worry about that. My dogs are barking all the time. I'm
Oh,
surprised they're not barking right now. I was drawn to Metaphorse because of the spiritual aspect of your work, as you know. As you also say, at Metaphorse, healing isn't a somber clinical process. It's a vibrant, life-affirming journey filled with moments of wonder, laughter, and profound connection. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Maybe give us an example. Let's just go right to the children where they've had an experience that or over time you've just seen the horses really help them. Yeah, help them.
I have a fantastic example of how
Yay.
the horses yeah, how the horses are healed as well as the people. So I have a 5-year-old, maybe 6-year-old Mustang. At this point, she's had 7 different homes before she came and lived with us. Yeah.
Wow.
Untouchable, was gonna be one of those horses she's been in a pen most of her life. So, when I decided that we were gonna just let her be a horse, I let the pen open, and she became part of the herd. Most people didn't realize that she was a wild Mustang. She has blended in with this herd fantastically, just another member of the herd where most of them are very old and she's very young. So you wouldn't think it would work, but it's almost like the older horses are telling her it's going to be okay. And
Oh,
over the months, she's watched us come in with a halter, rub on a horse, put the halter on, and take that horse out. And so she's not unapproachable anymore. You can actually come up and you can rub on her. Last week, we had the special needs kids for Step Up to Life. They were out, and there was a young man who had a brush and a halter in his hand, and he was brushing this horse down her back, down her neck, brushing her legs, had the halter in his hand. If I have that halter in my hand, she runs the other way. It
right.
means something, right? But this child and this horse bonded over a brush. um, he stood there, I can't tell you how long, and I couldn't say anything. I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't
Yeah.
want to say, "Hey, you're actually petting a wild horse right now that nobody can
Right.
touch." But you know, when he was done and the horse actually walked away, I did tell him that you are like one of the only people that's been on the ranch that's been able to touch that horse. Um, so that it was just such a special moment for the
Wow.
horse and the human that it's hard to explain it, but just I'm beaming just because a week ago it was just so special.
Wow.
And who would have thought this wild Mustang would have anything to do with the program? That kind of a program. Because I don't usually put the wild horses in with the kids,
Right, right.
right? But yeah, it was
Wow.
just, yeah,
Yeah, so
phenomenal.
let's talk about that. I know that, many children and people who have special gifts, some call it challenges, many, if not all, operate at such a higher vibration, a higher frequency than we do, in our little boxes in normalcy. Not that you and I are normal at all. No one is really, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying. So
Absolutely.
let's talk a little bit about that in terms of a little bit of the science. I hate to even bring, but people, it just brings even more validation of like how large a horse's heart is and the aura and some of the even heart math. I think I told you I just interviewed someone from heart math and they've
Mm.
actually done work on horses and they have a video out if anybody wants to go watch it. The heart math person will air in probably a few weeks. But can you just talk to that a little bit?
Yes, I love the fact that you brought up Heart Math. They are the founders of what is behind the theory of most of equine therapists, the fact that we as humans are in our head and never in our heart, and horses are always in their heart and very rarely in their head. The physiology behind that is that our heart is the size of our fist and our brain about the size of what? A cantaloupe, right? A melon.
Right.
Horse's brain is about the size of our fist. They used to say it was the size of a walnut, but I've dissected one and it's about the size of your fist.
Oh my
But
gosh.
their heart is the size of a watermelon. So we are completely backwards in our, how we live. We're in our brain all the time. They're in their heart, like I said. So that's what we have to learn from the horses. Heart math will tell you that we're in our brain, but if we could be heart centered and live from our heart, life would be a lot easier. We don't, those stupid thoughts of ours don't get in the way, right? When we're living from pure joy, because that's what our heart is all about. That's what horses want us to know. That's what they
Mm.
are mirroring to us every day. Um, yeah, that we are just forever driven by that morning cup of coffee. Then I have to go to work and then I have to be back and then I have to cook dinner or whatever that daily routine is. Horses mix it up all the time, not
Right.
stuck in our head, right? It's all about heart. Their heart rate all beats at one simultaneously rhythm. I'm not speaking right, but they all
No,
beat at
that
the
was
same they're all beating at the same time, the exact same rhythm. And when one fears something, oh, there's a coyote or a mountain lion, they all raise, all their heart rates go up. And then when they realize it's nothing to really fear, they go back into their heart and they all go back to that same rhythm. We as humans go, wait, what was that? Form a posse and go out and kill whatever. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but we don't just go right back to grazing, which is,
right.
what horses do. Like, oh, no, we're just going to go back to eat and relax and, back to life.
Th-
So,
That's really interesting because I interviewed Karen Newell. She was talking about heart math. And so, what I hear you saying, if I'm understanding it correctly, that if the steady breathing amongst the herd, and that's why horse people talk about the herd a lot. So, is what you're saying is that when one horse kind of gets riled up, that and their heart rate goes up, the whole herd, the whole interesting
yeah,
because in this interview, what we were talking about is the research has shown if you're in, and you don't even have to be in proximity. This is just the energy and vibrations of the universe. But when you're putting out that energy, that there's this ripple effect that just goes up out to everyone else, and everyone else calms down too. It's hard for us to understand, but it's so important to recognize that and realize that every single moment, everything that you do, it does matter and living in the present. And that's what I love about the horse work too, is that with the horses, there's no agenda, there's no judgment. And that just what makes it. I mean, I've seen people at your ranch where the women just come in and they just start crying as soon as they walk. Well, I sort of did that too when they, get on that massage table out in the middle of the horses. And let's talk about that for a second. I'm kind of all over the place here, but what happens in my experience, of course, the horses it was unbelievable. They were gathered like they were like waiting for me, almost all of them. And I know they don't always do that. And then they just surrounded me, like they almost waited in line to come up and love me and nibble on me or whatever they did while I was lying on that massage table. And it was just so beautiful. So what's going on there when you do that sort of work?
well, going back to the science of that, there's mirror neurons, and all humans have them. It's what gives us the ability to be empathetic to somebody, to be sad when somebody's sad, to be happy when somebody's sad or happy. We can feel their happiness. We can feel their sadness. We have hundreds of them. Horses have millions. of them.
Mm.
So we're kind of good at judging what's going on with humans, but horses see right through us. We can pretend that we're not scared when we're around horses, but they'll be like, yeah, you are. We can tell you're afraid when we're 10 feet away.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you step in, like people will say, what can I expect? I don't know, because it's different with every person who's walking in that arena. Some people are grieving. Some people are in total denial of what's going on in their life. And other people have a pretty good clue as to what's going on. They just want to see what the horses have to say, right?
Right.
Kind of a thing.
Right.
So in your case, I'm going to assume most of the people know your story. Um, and so the horses knew of your grief, and they meet people at the table when you're grieving. There is no other message you need to know other than that we've got you, right? And we're going to help
Yeah.
you dissolve this, resolve, take it, put it back to the universe, whatever it is they do. There's a lot of horse communicators say that they take our negative energy, recycle it, and put it back into the earth so that it comes back as good energy.
I love that.
But yeah,
Such a
uh,
shamanic, thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Well, half of them are in the ethers and half of them are here with us. So a horse knows what's going to happen way before it ever happens. Trainers will tell you that. So,
Yeah.
um, as well as the woo-woos in this world, but
Right,
we know
right.
that, yeah. One of Linda's books called Riding Between the Worlds was my favorite. It really explains that aspect beautifully. So,
Wow, we'll put that in the show notes. So once again, back to the children. I know you do a lot of writing, which RIDING with the kids, but you and I work with groundwork, which is I find just so fascinating and so important. So can you tell us a little bit about just the importance of groundwork and what that does for both the horse and the participant, especially the children?
yeah. So our groundwork is more about connection.
Mm.
A lot of groundwork, when people speak about groundwork, it's getting all of the vices out of your horse before you get on the horse to ride. For us, groundwork is, like I said, connection. When we are with the horse on the ground, not in the saddle, you have a chance to partner with that horse, not just be a dominating rider. We have children learn to match steps with the horse. So when the kid takes a step, the horse takes a step, and they
Yeah.
walk off together. And when that child stops, that horse stops. When they have that connection before they get on, it's unbelievable how, uh, I'm going to say miraculous the ride is for that child,
Yeah.
because there is that heart connection that they established before they get on the horse. Most people that own a horse have that connection with their horse. And so they have that. But when you're teaching a child to ride, or someone who doesn't own their own horse, it's it's just a way for them to see how wonderful the horses are, how they're going to open your heart, how they'll bring you out of your head and into your heart. Horse people will tell you their whole lives they could have the worst day, and when they go to the barn, you leave, you're like, oh, it really wasn't that bad. Right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
horses have brought you out of your head back into your heart, regulated your heartbeat. Oh, life feels good again. And so the kids have no idea that all this is going on. We tell them that, but kind of goes over their head. But when they leave, the smiles on their faces, and the parents just can't believe how big the smiles are. One of the best stories that I love the most was there's a child who did not speak to her family, very limited. She was at a speech therapist for 5 years, never said a word to this woman. She came out on her second writing lesson, spoke full sentences to Madison Cano, my writing instructor. Did you know I have a dog named Harry? I mean, flat out, full sentence. Madison's like, "Wait, what?" "No, no, tell me more,"
Wow,
and
wow.
is speaking still to this day. So, just remarkable story
Yeah,
what
wow.
horses are doing for these
Yeah.
kids. On a
So
regular kids camp, we make them do what we called around the world, where they're sitting in a saddle. They have to put their feet to the left side. They have to turn around backwards. They have to put their feet to the right side and then come back to their feet being faced towards the horse's head. We make them stand on the saddle, stand up on the horse completely, hands out, just self-confidence building. And these older horses stand there like statues. They're just fantastic for the
wow, that's so
yeah.
beautiful. As you know, I'm um, going to be running some children's camps with your help and with my other partner's help. And I remember mentioning to you some ideas I had about writing a curriculum with whether it's a lot of shamanic, talking sticks or dream catcher or crystals or whatever it may be. And you said something to me, and it just really caught my attention because when I mentioned this, you said, "Well, let's go out and talk to the horses about it and see what they have to say." So, can you just how does that work? Is it all telepathy? You just go out and visualize about what's going to be happening, and how do you know if it's a positive? I know this is all intuition and this is so hard to answer because it's all energy, but can you just talk about that a little bit?
Well, sure. So it is intuition, a lot of it, but really and truly, the horses speak in metaphors. And so when you see an act repeated 3 times or more, they're trying to get your attention. Like, hey, this is it. This is it. So
Right.
if we put drums in one stack and we put crystals in another stack, and then we put papers, like whatever it is we wanted the kids to learn, the horses would go to each stack and they would stand where they were like, oh no, like this would be the drums. If they stood over the drums, they would say it should be a drumming circle, right? So we could say, okay, well, day 1 we're going to do drums. What do you think we should do day 2? And then they would go to either the paperwork or the crystals, or they may go back to the drums, in which case you'd be like, we're drumming,
It's a
drum,
drum workshop.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, so the horses make it very, very clear. Something that we do, which is really fun in workshops, is we will have people pick 3 cards. So tarot cards,
Hmm.
they will take those 3 cards out to the horse, hold them out, and the horse will pick the card for them. And it is so profound. I mean, it is exactly the message that person needs to hear every time.
So do you hold it in your hand or do you put them out on like chairs or something or what?
Nope, you hold them in your hand in sets of 3. You put those 3 out just in your hands, spread them as far as you
And they
can.
just come and nudge one of them.
They will pick 1 card every time. Sometimes they hover over them, but then they will come down. They'll put their lips. Some of them grab the card and spit it at you. It's yeah,
Oh
it's
my
we'll
gosh.
have to do it next time you're here
Yeah,
because it's so
absolutely. Absolutely. Because I read
yeah.
tarot, and that's
Yes.
that's that's just so cool. Well, I love your work and I love your energy, and Metahorse is it's a gem that I don't know, it just gives me goosebumps to even talk about the kinds of things that you're doing and your beautiful horses. So, if people, well, first of all, would you like to say any words of wisdom or anything I haven't asked that you would like to say?
I guess I would love to explain what I do with my equine therapy, because I am very different from a Gestalt or a Path International, any of those
Right.
places where they would have you pick a horse and put it in a round pen, and they'll give you a task, and whatever comes up during that task is kind of your message. The metaphors show up in that situation. You're in a round pen, you want the horse to go, and the horse stops. And so you would say, so, where are things stalled in your life? Yeah, just a question kind of a thing. I have found that I don't have to manipulate the horse with the whip or the round pin, that the horse is going to show up. And that I've found that it really messes things up when the person says, oh, I want to work with that horse, because that horse might be a beautiful paint and catches their eye, but that horse might not be the energy that that person needs at the time.
Right.
So when you allow the horses to decide, so it's truly equine facilitated learning, then the messages are more clear and you get truly the healing that you need to get, because it was the horses, not the human in their head saying, oh, this is the horse I need. It's the horse going, oh, I can read your mirrors and you need me. And so that's the horse that shows up.
Right.
So I put a table out there, like, and you sit on the table and we watch the metaphors show up. When you get the message that you're there for, they come to the table and they almost rub it and tell you to lay down. You missed the metaphor part because they knew what you were there for. So you just got the lay down part where the horses just hang out over you and do what they do, right? They're healing.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think there's 5 of us in the world that do it this way. There's a lady in Texas, there's a lady in Gunnison, there's a lady in Cape Town, South
I
Africa,
know. She's
and
all over that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then, yeah, saying that her horses are the only ones that do this. Well, about 10 years now we've been doing this, but,
Right. Right.
yeah, I think
So
every
when
single horse is capable, it's just the ones who want to show up that do.
Yeah. So when you say like you said, I kind of missed out. I just laid down and so when you're saying a person is sitting up on the table and the horse that wants to help them comes to that person and you said something about is it more like for the horse, the part of the body that it's going to or
Yes, well, there's different ways that that happens.
yeah,
So like for instance, one of there were 5 horses all eating in a stack of hay, and one leaves and goes to the water trough, and then the next one leaves and goes to the water trough, and then the next one leaves and goes to the water. So there was this pattern. I was like, huh, okay, so they're all leaving food and they're going to drink, right? And so I was like, hey, so I'm curious. All the horses have left the food and they're all going to drink,
right.
thinking that this might be an alcohol problem that this person would have, right? I'm like, oh, there's a metaphor for drinking, right? And
Yes,
she's
yes.
like, oh, yes, as a matter of fact, I just left my doctor after a routine physical, and I was told I'm not hydrated enough and I need to drink more. So for the horses, that was truly an important message for her, that she needs to drink more water. It wasn't an alcohol thing, which is where I was going in my head. It's like, oh, all the horses are leaving to go drink,
Right.
right? But in this person's instance, it was truly that she was not hydrated enough and needed to drink more. So that for her, that was her message, one of her messages in her session. For other people, they will go to you on the table, and if they're hovering over your knees, I will ask, do you have pain in your knees? And some people were like, oh yeah, they've been bothering me forever. And some people will be like, no, not really. I mean, they're just fine. They seem to be fine. But if you looked up Louise Hayes, like what does that body part mean kind of
Right,
thing, it comes
right.
out as like stubbornness, not moving forward kind of a thing, that people will go, oh yeah, that's me.
Right,
Like, oh
right.
yeah, that's totally, I'm just planted and I don't want to move forward in my career, or where I need to go, kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
sometimes they hover over body parts, sometimes they are just flat out giving you a message. A lot of times they'll be at your throat chakra. So I will say, hey, they're really hovering there. Is there something that needs to be said? Oh yes,
Mm,
I haven't been able to tell my partner, this, that, or the other. So the horses are spot on every time. It's
wow, that's just so beautiful. So you do a lot of workshops, and I think we do, once again, we'll have in the show notes Ipana Quest, Linik Kananov. Is that how you say her name? She,
Kohana.
oh yes,
Yeah.
she does amazing work, and now that's a lot of the work that you're doing, and even more. But if people want to find out more about you and your workshops and your offerings, how would they do that?
Oh, Metaphorse.com. Everything is on
Okay.
our website. They could call us as well. And you're welcome to stop by if you're in Montrose. Come check us out and
Yeah,
see what it
Montrose,
is we do.
Colorado. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
Right.
hope to be back out there soon. So I will definitely see you. And thanks so much for coming on the
Oh,
program. I really appreciate it.
I
And I know
appreciate you.
you have a documentary coming out. Is that
I do.
still? Yeah.
Yep.
And when is
Out in
that?
PBS. They're talking the first or second week of December. Still
Okay,
working on it. All the
great.
election stuff kind of, they had stories they had to do over that. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe we'll try to air this kind of when that goes out too, so we can talk about it. Well, thank you so much, and I hope to see you really soon.
thanks, Marla. I hope to see
Okay,
you too. All
okay.
righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.